This is Let Your Voice Be Heard, right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Well, hey, Tammy, good morning.
Hi, friend. Hello, friends. I'm in such a good mood today because not only is it Sunday Fun Day, my favorite day of the week, but it's Black History Month.
Day 2 of the Negro story.
Yes, we can act out, get
Show
it
some respect,
poppin'.
Evan.
Any Harlem parties, holla at me. I'm really trying to be up here. I'm out in Flatbush. Any Brooklyn parties, holla at me. I'm trying to celebrate my heritage
You
this
go to a
month.
good basement party?
I would go to any kind of party. I'm a fun girl.
Why not?
You are, and you're also in your 20s, which means you're not washed, and you have a lot of energy to hang out.
Yeah, Selena, we are not washed.
Energy. I'm like a depressed lower millennial, so what is energy?
Well, at least you could party still.
Who
Yeah,
are
it's
you,
true.
White King? Talk to us on Black History Month.
I got
with
one
respect.
last year in my 20s. So
Exactly.
I better be about that anti-wash energy, too.
Do you need me to get you a bottle of Hennessy after this?
I don't even... Stanley said he off Hennessy, but he started every show talking about Hennessy. So
Yeah,
I don't know what's
I don't
going on.
believe he's off Hennessy.
Can I tell you at my housewarming? Oh, you were there.
I was
got
there.
I got one of Marilyn's coworkers too drunk
I remember this.
by accident.
I was there 1 hour. I didn't know who you were talking about.
Yo, because I made this. I made a what's this? Not a margarita. It's the other thing.
Mojito?
Sangria. There we go. I made a sangria.
Yeah.
But I made it with Paul Masson. That's the brandy for people that hang out on the corner.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra stuff. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you got to be on some. Yeah, so I put some Paul Masson and then some thought juice, not thought juice,
Thought juice.
a little bit of thought juice, Bud Light Lamarita, and then
That's dangerous.
What do you consider thought juice? Like
Bud Light
no
Lamarita.
crack, oh ye English.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of
no,
thought
no.
juice.
It's the Rita drinks,
Oh, okay.
you know?
It's the
like
Rita,
the
yeah.
margarita, like the Budweiser Rita.
like the really
Yeah.
trashy kind.
And then I put in some sweet Moscato on that joint with
I
some ice
love sweet
and some
Moscato.
oranges and some strawberries, and
yeah.
it tasted good. It was too
sounds
sweet
like
for
it.
my liking.
Whatever
but
happened
they
to
killed it.
regular, tried and true jungle juice with just like regular old Bacardi and moonshine
What?
and beer?
Moonshine. You're gonna wake up next week and there's moonshine in there.
That sounds serious. Well, shout out to Stanley, a.k.a. the Star Tender, who was mixing and mixologist, who was mixing the drinks and giving them
I
out.
like
Me
Star
too.
Tender. Yo,
Star
what kind of
Tender's
drinks
good,
are you
yeah.
guys making out here in these
That's
streets?
true.
I know Ray Russell, so she's real earthy. So she probably made some like India Arie Solange, some kind of drink where it's like bubbly and smoke comes out, and the Orisha is talking to you, and the ancestors fill your liver up as you drink it. I
It's
know,
like mad
sis.
florals and stuff.
But BB is from Texas, so whatever she made was like a 32-ounce Hennessy, Crown Apple, Douce, and then she chased it with a little bit of Bud Light.
I love how we're just projecting on all of
That's
our
like-
Facebook Live listeners right now.
Yep.
You ever saw
I love it.
It's like a margarita at BBQs where it's like this entire table.
Yep. Yo, speaking of drinks, Buffalo Wild Wings on 125th Street by the Magic Johnson movie theater closed down.
Oh.
With
Oh,
no
R.I.P.
warning. I had a coupon for free chicken, so I was gonna go there, and it was just like a paper sign that said "We closed y'all forever."
oh. A paper sign. That's so sad. Well,
He died like he lived.
seriously. But yeah, so we have a great show lined up. We're actually going to be speaking about the death of Kobe Bryant.
That's right.
Very sad. I know a lot of us are still unpacking, have a lot of emotions around it, and we need to talk about that as well as the controversy. I mean, everything is so controversial in like 2020 and like
Seriously.
ever since social media happened. Like nothing can just happen without some type of polarizing, controversial effect. So we're going to talk about that. The impeachment trial, we need to talk about that and some other things. So guys, if you want to let your voices be heard, keep those comments coming on Facebook Live. We're at facebook.com/letyourvoicebeheard. You can talk to us as well on IG. We'll be reading and taking comments there as well. And you can call us up at 212-650-6903.
650-03.
Again, that's 212-650-6903. All right, guys, we'll be right back. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard.
This song is dedicated to all the young people 29 and under. So I don't get girls. I don't need no girls because I don't got money. That was a bar, right? We are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM WHCR, the voice of Harlem. If you were just tuning in, this is Stanley Fritz. I'm here with Selena Hill, Tammy, David, and of course, Evan Mastronardi, the Italian Dominican. He's not really Dominican, but I'm going to keep saying that.
My
Selena?
stomach is Dominican. We'll
Is
go with that.
Is that problematic?
It might be.
No, it might
I
be.
mean,
Who knows?
There are real Italian, it's a real mix.
Well, whatever,
Anyway.
however you want to identify, we support.
Whoa.
Okay.
So you transracial on Black History Month? Is that what you're saying, Evan?
I don't try to Ricardo Dozea this.
Oh.
All right.
Well,
Bar.
it's Black History Month, guys. Obviously, it's also Super Bowl Sunday. So, in light of it being Black History and Super Bowl Sunday, PETA actually released a All Pet Lives Matter commercial.
We going right into this.
Yes.
That's where we're kicking it off. Okay, so it's the news roundup where we talk about
All
the
right.
stories that made us laugh, cry, extremely upset, get banned from Facebook, etc. So PETA released a Colin Kaepernick inspired Super Bowl ad, which was reportedly banned by Fox. And in the ad, you can see every animal, like all the animals kneeling. They are
Yeah.
all taking a knee, saying that our lives matter. And the way that this ad ends with hashtag end speciesism. It is
Listen.
time to end
Listen.
speciesism.
No, listen. I'm not doing this stuff for white people today, okay? no.
Day
No.
2.
Listen, word, you can't say this for March 1st?
It's only
Yo.
day 2.
No, you know what? I have respect for
Stanley,
PETA because...
pet lives don't matter.
No, they don't. I don't care about Scruffy. Listen.
Hey, you better care about my cat. You can say the rest of
Oh,
them.
yeah. I didn't see the cat kneeling in that photo, King. Nah.
My cat asleep.
Let me tell you something about, like, white people are bold. They do a lot of bold things, but having animals kneel, first off, I don't think animals can even kneel, except for maybe monkeys. That's one. 2, speciesism. But I give respect to PETA because they're always vying for respect like this. They are always vying for
They
respect.
keep that same energy. They're consistent.
They are
Yeah, they
so
are.
crazy. It's the same energy as the sticker in this bathroom that says, like, stop selling chicken nuggets, like chicken nuggets are genocide. It's that exact same energy. Like, where do they come up with the most outlandish stuff to produce? Like, who came up with this idea?
I mean, Evan, you're a cat lover. Are you also
My
with
cat-
the All
I'm
Pet
a-
Lives Matter
Evan, you're a
movement?
white. Explain this.
I don't prefer the A before it.
Yes,
No.
Stanley.
What bothers me about this, right, is this is coming like we can't even see Colin Kaepernick, a whole person fighting for police brutality, kneel, and then we got like every animal in the animal kingdom in the middle of the Super Bowl kneeling. Like we skipped a whole bunch of stuff here to get right. Like there's so much that the NFL. I'm kind of at the one hand I'm glad they said no to it, but they probably didn't say no for the reasons I would say no. Like I would say no because I'm like there's so many other things that we should be kneeling for that I'm not saying animal rights don't matter. I think in the grand scheme of things they're there, but there's a lot of people rights that also matter that we're not advocating for yet. So I think people saw this and like, wait, foxes are taking a knee and we're going to take that before we can see like whole people taking a knee?
They won't even
Well-
let.
Yeah.
They're trying to stop formerly incarcerated people in Florida from voting by adding a poll tax, pretty much saying that they got to
Yeah,
pay back.
it's-
But you want me to care about your freaking German Shepherd? No.
So PETA says, now I didn't hear Colin Kaepernick come out and say this. PETA said that Colin Kaepernick saw the ad.
And he positively acknowledged
Now
it.
I didn't see this though. So
Maybe, I saw the ad too. Like,
Yeah.
Well, he
no, but
positively
they're
acknowledged
saying that
it.
he acknowledged it.
Well,
But, you
to
first,
Peter's
Selena.
point, they also advocate against stopping racism,
Yeah, they said that.
sexism, genocide. All they're saying
Of
is
animals.
we need to
No,
add
yeah.
speciesism to the fight against supremacy. That is what they're saying. That's what Peter's saying.
www.stopwhitepeople.com.
Well, I would have believed that a lot more if what they did was show all of that in the commercial and then put their speciesism part at the end. That would have, if they did that like connection, if they truly believed that and they showed like end racism and they took a kneel for all those other things, then I would have believed that more.
BB
I really
says forget
don't-
them damn animals, by the way.
Honestly, baby, I'm with you there, girl, because, and this is going to sound problematic, but I really don't care what the vegans listening have to say. We are biological animals. Like, let's not forget our place. We have consciousness. We dress our stuff up. We're in an economic system, whatever, but we're animals. We eat meat. I just got into a Twitter beef with this girl the other day because she's talking about we don't have the teeth to process meat. Girl, we have enzymes in our stomach. We
Yeah.
have lateral incisors. We have canines. Like,
Whoa.
yes, the animal industry is very cruel, and good people would advocate for ways to change our diet, to impact carbon footprint. But at the end of the day, comparing animal lives due to our omnivorous nature is so disrespectful.
Yeah.
Other human beings are on our same level with consciousness and feelings.
Yep.
And what are animals? They're beneath us
Well,
in the chain.
well, I'll say this because I agree to the last part you made. Animals also have consciousness. Male mice actually sing to their females. Pigs, we know, love to cuddle.
You gotta do what you gotta do to get the cheeks.
I know.
I mean, what you want
And
They doing more out here than dudes sliding in DMs. I'll say that much.
Seriously.
Some mice
So
are really
what I'm
putting
trying
in
to
the
say
work.
is that
Selena getting what you doing text from these mice out here singing.
exactly
From New York subway
they got
rats.
a whole they get in a whole song, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say is like I agree that we need to stop cruelty to animals when it comes to just killing them. And first,
Yeah.
it's not healthy for us.
Hard agree.
The way
Hard
that
agree.
animal foods are mass produced is it's hurting and killing us.
And the
So
environment.
I do think that
Yep,
if we can
that's
take
it.
anything, yes, that's true, Stanley. If we could take anything away from PETA, it's just like we need to be more conscious and cognizant about the treatment of all species because some
Yes.
people say you can judge a society by the way they treat those people or things that are most marginalized. That's how you can judge a society, how they treat their animals.
All right. Thank you, Selena. Can we move on to something that I actually care about now?
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful. So, Super Bowl. It's today. Who's watching? Who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for Shakira and J-Lo to not totally trash the Super Bowl halftime show and do something that'll be horrible.
Show some respect to Shakira. Shakira, like, Shakira is a triple threat.
No, of
She
course.
can
So is
sing,
J-Lo.
She can dance, and she looks good.
You sound like you're describing Jennifer Lopez.
No, I'm not, because Jennifer Lopez cannot sing. So,
Hey, we don't diss Bronx Queens on this show.
I mean,
It's true, we
if
don't.
If she acknowledged that she was from the Bronx and cares about the Bronx, maybe, but she probably wouldn't know Castle Hill if she was stuck in the middle of it. Now, meanwhile, Shakira, she's a boss. J-Lo was lip singing Ashanti songs for 10 years. And then got big with some movies and acted like she was too good for it. So, yeah.
She's still Jenny from the block, Stanley.
No, she's not. She's from Jenny from Malibu with a Botox appointment.
Ooh, all the slander on a Sunday morning. Evan?
I'm rooting for Shakira too. Look, I don't care when the Giants are not in the
That's
Super Bowl.
right, ally. Stand with me.
When the Giants are not in the Super Bowl, I really don't care, and I do respect Shakira's talent. I agree.
I'm also not watching the Super Bowl, and
Me neither.
I'm still boycotting. This will be year 4. I miss football sometimes. Selena's having trouble. Yeah, Selena.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Continue,
y'all. Selena's
Stanley.
over here struggling with her tripod. This is my 4th year now watching the Super Bowl, and I feel kind of bad because there's a black quarterback in there. So I want to root for Patrick Mahomes just because, he's a black guy and he can win. But the NFL is racist. But Jay-Z has been doing a press run about the Super Bowl, and he's saying that while everybody was criticizing him, he got $100 million. He got the NFL to dedicate $100 million towards criminal justice reform. Yeah, it's funny. That's the same $100 million the NFL offered Colin Kaepernick if he stopped kneeling. Like it's not. They were going to spend the money anyway.
Wow.
Like, congrats, Jay-Z. You still are a sellout.
Well, Tammy, yes.
So, first of all, I don't care about sports at all. So I will not be watching because it's boring. But also, I will not be watching because I feel like Shakira and J-Lo kind of sold out doing this
Really?
show. Yeah, remember how Rihanna rejected the show this year? Like, she said, nah, I can't do that to Kaepernick, Like, I can't.
Yeah.
Which is really valid. And for what it's worth, J-Lo and Shakira are very talented and good for them. I'm happy to see Latinas being celebrated, but I really feel like the NFL at this point is tired. It's not the same as it used to be. And in the wake of the discrimination that players face, that black people face in the league, I think artists need to make a serious choice about what they're representing.
And I would just add to that, I'm also not a huge sports fan, but there's a lot of controversy over the fact that there are a lack of black coaches and a black executives in the industry. So a lot of folks feel like, the industry itself is profiting off of the labor and the physical labor of black and brown bodies, but how are they elevated? Can they get, coaching positions? Can they get executive positions in the industry itself? So that's also something that's problematic.
Yeah, the NFL is racist, and the owners are racist. I mean, I got nothing else for you.
But you won't watch it unless Kaepernick comes back, Stanley?
Even if Kaepernick came back, I don't know if I'd watch it. I'd watch the first game just to support the fact that he came back. But it's deeper than Kaepernick now. It's been much deeper. All the owners are Trump supporters. They look the other way when there's violence against women consistently. They have tried to cover up the CTE concussion syndrome that the NFL players have had because it hurt their bottom line. It is just like it's a horrible corporation. And I know if I lived under the hood for baseball, I'd see a lot of the same things, but I can only protest so many things before I have nothing else to enjoy. And
also,
right now, the NFL got to take the L because my New York Mets are my team.
Yeah, and also not to say any sport is doing a phenomenal job, but MLB does, of the sports combined, a decent, improved job with domestic violence compared to some of the other sports.
Yeah, you get knocked out for a whole season in the playoffs.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, well, Domingo Germán, he got knocked out for half the season in playoffs. Yeah. So
all right,
let's take it seriously.
I'm sorry to cut it short,
No,
but I'm already tired of this topic. So
Did you just flick your hair out?
yeah, yo. So anybody who's listening live and not watching, I got these long knotless box braids. Shout out my girl Daviana, Dream Deeply Hair, South Harlem.
How long did that take to get done?
Oh my God! So we were chilling, smoking, eating.
Oh, so it took 3 days then.
Dude, it took like 10 hours. I'm not even gonna lie to you because we were straight kicking it. But she does good work.
Black
It
women are
looks nice.
committed. I can't even like my haircut takes an hour, and if like Bobby really wants to go ham, it can take an hour and a half. That time I came in here glowing, it took an hour and a half for that haircut. And I be tired after 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, hurry up, man.
Wow.
I respect that. That's like spa day for men.
Yeah, because no, you finish first.
That's like self care.
Yo,
like,
Bobby
like
comes through. He gives you the razor. Then he gives you Noxzema on your face with a hot rag.
Yeah.
He wipes you.
Well, the joke's on everyone else because it's like 10 hours one day, but then I don't have to do my hair
For
forever.
for like at least 2-3 months. No, your box braids look bomb. By the way, I just want to
Thank
compliment
you.
how nice her braids look. Well, let's talk about something that's not so nice. So Mace has called out Pete Diddy for allegedly refusing to give his artists their coins. So if you guys saw, Pete Diddy received an Icon Award from the Grammys pre the actual Grammy the Academy ceremony, and during the speech he was like, Grammys do better, we need some more diversity, we Grammys do not respect hip-hop music or black music, etc. And then Mace was like, oh, keep that same energy via Bad Boy Entertainment. Diddy, what's up? What did you think about that, Tammy?
Bloop. I love that energy, honestly. And I think more black professionals in every single industry needs to be calling on, I guess, what I would say is their superiors in the industry, like their fellow black superiors that play into capitalism that robs labor, robs work, and robs creative energies from black and brown people. Like, I thought it was so amazing that he got called out, especially because I don't like Diddy, what he did with Cassie. And I just had read...
Marry her?
Well, because he treated her badly, and he paused her career for so many years on some nonsense.
Allegedly.
Word. Allegedly.
I believe all black women.
Well, 2 snaps to that.
But thank you, Maze. Honestly, that needed to be said.
Stanley, what are your thoughts on that?
Come on, that was my era. I grew up in that Bad Boy era.
You did?
Everybody knows that Diddy was like hustling everybody off their publishing, but everybody was hustling everybody off their publishing. There are very few places where any artist owns a good chunk of their publishing. That's just not the case. Now, $20,000 for his publishing, that's crazy because Mace didn't just have his own albums. He wrote for Diddy. He brought in a group. He did a lot of stuff for Diddy and Bad Boy, so he should have more money. But what I heard vis-a-vis the Joe Budden podcast yesterday on what they were saying is that the $2 million that Mace offered to give Diddy back for his publishing was apparently $2 million that Diddy gave to Mace, and Mace was supposed to put out music with it, and instead Mace left and then started working with 50 Cent. And that's where that 50 Cent Diddy beef came from, because Mace took the money, didn't pay Diddy back, and it was doing that.
It sounds like a big old mess. It sounds very, very messy. To your point, I do think artists are more empowered about publishing rights, because that's where the real money comes in. It's the composers and the lyricists, people who write the music, that earn a lot of the money.
But he's going to get it back in 7 years when he turns 50, all of it.
How?
Because it gets they only have it for a certain amount of years in intellectual property, then it has to go back to the original creator. And when he turns 50, that's what Diddy said to him. You can pay me more than this guy's offering, or you can get it when you turn 50, all of it. So,
who is the European guy? Because I kept seeing something about that, some comparison.
None of us
Just some rich white dude.
Yeah, probably.
Which exactly, and if that's how it's presented to him, that's also kind of problematic too.
Yeah.
More than this European guy. But Prince always said, "Own your masters,"
Yeah.
and before they own you.
You know,
And that's what he said. And the other thing where it happened was with Kellis and the Neptunes.
oh, Khalees?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Dude, I did the same
Black
thing on the
History
phone
Month.
this week. I could not.
But the thing was, like, she was saying, like, she was getting so much guap off, like, touring that she wasn't noticing at first. And that's the problem. Is like when you're a young artist and like you're making some money, it may not be the first thing you notice. You may not even know you're getting hustled until like down the line, because you're happy to get some money. You're happy for the fame. And it's a predatory business. Like you said, it's all based on capitalism, even at that level.
Yeah.
But is the fact that everybody's getting swindled like necessarily
That
like
doesn't make it right.
It doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
It just makes it common, and it's like it's selective. Like are you saying like maybe not Diddy should be the only one called out for
Yeah.
it if that's the case?
No, yeah. I mean, like, it's wrong. Like, I'll use writing as an example. I remember a couple years ago, somebody said to Selena, well, you could write for this website and you could do all this work, but we're not going to pay you, but we'll give you a byline, which is good for name recognition. And it was like, are you serious? Like, do you know who she is? Like, she doesn't need your byline. No, she didn't react that way, but, like, Selena did not need a byline. Like, you got
not
pay
at
her
that
for
point in
kind
my
of stuff.
career,
Yeah.
but I vividly remember that incident. I know
Yeah.
BB Mendez has left a comment on our Facebook. She says, while I love his statement to the Grammys, the reality is black people need to raise the bar and set the standard for the rest of the world to follow. And Diddy needs to lead by example at this point in his career if he wants that message to be effective. I could not agree more. Before we go to break, just real quick, impeachment trial. 10 seconds or less. Honestly, I think that this was a complete flop for the Democrats. We're not going to get the witnesses that we deserve to really unpack this. Trump, it sounds like he's exonerated, and he's just going to be boasting about it come his State of the Union speech this Tuesday. Evan, quickly before we go to break.
It's not even a trial without witnesses, and it shows how guilty he is. That's what I would slam him on. If you're really innocent, what's wrong with the witnesses?
That's what I said. All right, guys, so we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're talking Kobe Bryant and his tragic death. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard. Yeah, we were having a little too much fun with that Diddy classic throwback with Mace and B.I.G. But we do have to shift gears because on Sunday, January 26th, we lost a legend. Kobe Bryant, an 18-time NBA All-Star who won 5 championships with the Los Angeles Lakers.
And 2 gold medals.
Yes, he did. He died in a horrific helicopter crash in Calabasas, California, along with his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, and 7 other people. The loss reverberated around the world. Now, Kobe Bryant was more than just a sports icon. He was an Oscar winner, an Emmy winner, a tech investor, a youth basketball coach, a role model, a friend, a husband, and a 41-year-old proud girl dad who made a tremendous impact in our world. He was an inspiration. So today, as we unpack the life, legacy, and tragic passing of Kobe Bryant, as well as the controversy around his 2003 sexual assault case and the way his death has been reported in the media, I know we have a lot of thoughts around this. And I want to actually open up this conversation with Stanley, because for you, Kobe Bryant was a hero.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been following Kobe since I was an 11-year-old kid in 6th grade, and there were rumors about this high schooler who was the next Jordan and was gonna, go to the NBA. I saw him when he was like a rookie coming off the bench for the Lakers. I saw him when he was wearing number 8 with the afro, and he was signed under Adidas and had those ugly sneakers that I did save up like 2 months of my part-time job up for to buy those sneakers. I've really followed him. I've always like looked to Kobe as inspiration as far as his work ethic and like his attention to detail and like just like the ability to always strive for more. And like I've taken pride in the fact that like people have said that like my approach to like my passions is a little bit relentless because that's what Kobe did. I think Selena can attest for that. Like but like I got it from that because I'm like, this is how Kobe approaches basketball. This is how I'm gonna approach like work or the radio show or anything. We were recording Let's Not Be Trash when Kobe died. Whew. I was already having a pretty rough week. That was like a punch to the gut, man. I'm going to miss Kobe.
Evan, you were recording that podcast with Stanley
right.
when you found the news. How did you react?
Well, first it was tough to see Stanley because I know that he meant a lot to Stanley, and I could only imagine, like, I always grew up more of a baseball fan, but Kobe transcended one sport. Kobe was just an athlete that everybody knew, everybody respected, based on his work ethic, based on that he's a champion, based on his desire to win. You know, one of my favorite baseball players was Derek Jeter, and he always reminded me of, like, Derek Jeter in basketball in that, yeah, they're both, you could say, okay, they make a lot of money, but you could tell, like, money ain't all of it for them. Like, money ain't nothing if they don't win. So that's why, you know, Kobe got, and it's funny, Kobe got 5 rings, right? And Jeter got 5 rings. So it was, you know, it was a tough moment. We definitely need to take time to process. And then, of course, after that, you know, because Stanley and I do Let's Not Be Trash, we have to cover, like, all the news surrounding it, not just our, you know, interest in him as an athlete. Which did make it, you know, difficult from many sides of this. So I don't know if you want to get into that now.
We are definitely going to get
into
it.
Yeah.
But before we do, I want to give Tammy a chance to talk about her reaction because we had a conversation offline and you had a very different reaction to his passing.
Yeah, so for anyone who, you know, is watching for the first time or just tuning in now, I'm not a sports person. Like, I didn't know much about Kobe at all, except for that, you know, he was apparently really big in basketball. Heard him in lyrics. You know, I've heard about him. I think my dad is a Lakers fan, so, like, I'm sure my dad would know more about his legacy. But when I saw his death, there wasn't really anything that went through my head. It was kind of nothing for me. I'm really desensitized to just hearing about people dying, hearing about rich celebrities dying in their lives. And so I kind of saw it as just like a headline. What really did more for me, which we'll talk about later, was how I saw his death unfold. Like,
let's talk
the
about
reaction.
that now.
I think that was jolting for me because I don't know Kobe, but the reaction was like some of the most that I have ever seen, you know. I'm only 25, so I haven't really seen that many legends die, but even when Michael Jackson died, I felt like it wasn't like it was just it was like shock, like the whole world, like China started making tributes.
Right, but do
It's
you
also
not understand the international impact
Like,
of why these figures
social media.
die?
He was our era's Jordan.
No, I know that.
And we have
that.
social media now, too.
I know, and we have social media, but for me, there was just something so shocking about, like, this very tragic event. Like, it was a helicopter crash, and before we know it, like, Vanessa Bryant's account was locked, and, like, on every single platform, like, hundreds and hundreds of people are making, like, these tribute posts. So many people of which I don't even really think watch basketball or know basketball, but it was like a crazy ripple effect.
Yeah, and I think for me, because also I've seen other people die and, you know, other legends, and when I see the world react like that, and if I don't know them, I Google them, I do some research, and I find out their history and I find out their impact. You know, I think that, you know, and another thing that, you know, we talked about was you thought it was sensationalized and you thought that you didn't actually want to have this conversation because you said, you used the term, you said it was trauma porn.
Oh, yeah.
Trauma porn. I'm so big on that. So trauma porn is basically the idea that media in particular uses like extreme emotions, particularly sadness and anger, because they are so polarizing, to break stories and get more attention in news stories and to kind of like make things known. We see it all the time in the Black Lives Matter era where black and brown bodies, their deaths are being displayed, videos are being sent all over, and it's a way to get us to react. And I really did think Kobe's death was trauma porn because it was freaking jarring. Like, Selena saw the video and it was crazy. Like, it's crazy the way that he died. Like, have some respect. Have some respect. That was a tragic death. Like, let the family have their funeral. Let the Lakers do their thing. But the way people were spreading that video and kind of like jumping on the my heart is broken, like the world is at a stop, it just felt like too much for me. And maybe it's because I'm not like a huge sports person, but even looking into his legacy and like seeing that he was this international icon, I just like could not understand like why the intensity.
Stanley, you can answer that briefly, and then we're gonna take a break.
Yeah, I mean, the Kobe loss was big, but yeah, the way that like some people have treated his death, particularly some folks who were not. Let's get it straight. Kobe was beloved, but there were a lot of people that didn't like Kobe. A lot of them because he would beat their teams, and some of them because they thought he was overrated. So I think a lot of people did respect Kobe, though, as a player, because you could not respect the man.
Yeah.
He has the second highest scoring game in NBA history. Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 in the game. Kobe scored 81. And no one has come close. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm not surprised by the impact of his death. Also, he's somebody who grew up overseas, speaks Italian, Mandarin, Brazilian, and Spanish. So, like, he was already in Portuguese. Thank you. Mm-hmm. He was already international in ways that other players weren't. The Chinese Basketball League offered him $50 million to come play one season after he retired. Like, that's how big he was. So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Kobe Bryant was black excellence at its best.
Yeah, and he was. And, like, that's... But, like, those are the reasons why people worship him. So, guys, and we're going to take a quick 30-second break.
I wonder where you've been. I miss you. It's so hard to admit it.
And we are back. This is Let Your Voice Be Heard right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. And we're talking about the tragic death of Kobe Bryant. We talked about our reaction. We all have very different reactions, and we talked about that. Another thing we want to talk about, something that Evan actually touched on a little bit, was public reaction to his death. So following his death, a number of people began bringing up his sexual assault case. And even though charges were dropped, the case was never forgotten. As we recall, Bryant was charged with a felony sexual assault in 2003 after a 19-year-old woman claimed that she raped him. That she was raped by him. The case was later settled out of court. And Kobe initially said that the sex was consensual, but he later acknowledged that the woman did not view the incident as consensual, and he offered an apology. Evan, as someone who is a fierce women's advocate and male feminist, what are your thoughts about unpacking Kobe's death while bringing up this rape case?
Yeah, so Stanley and I do a podcast called Let's Not Be Trash, where we talk about these issues, and we want to support women, we want to support survivors, and we also want to bring men into the fold. So a day like this was kind of where all these things came to a head, right? Where you had a lot of men who were mourning and also publicly being emotional in maybe ways we don't always see, because it was more of a space where it was allowed. And at that same time, these reports came back to light. So the first thing I want to say is we have to give space for survivors of assault to feel what they feel. Like, I'm not one. I can't claim I would know how to act, that I have a perfect timeline for responses if I'm a survivor of assault. These are almost visceral reactions. It's like PTSD for some people. But in the same token, so is grief. Grief and mourning is also like a visceral reaction. To grieve someone who died, who you grew up with, even if you don't know them. So I felt like during this time, when you mentioned like what social media can do earlier and like the picture it can paint, like if you only looked at social media, it would really look like the terrible verses of Kobe fans versus like feminists and assault survivors. And it did not look good, but that's not the case. That's not the reality. These things can coexist. I want to quote a quote by Erica Hart from Sex Positive Families, and she said, Space can be held for both sexual assault survivors and the emotions felt with the sudden death of a person who is influential to black culture and who has a family and many that mourn his loss. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
I would agree to that. Stanley, I want you to weigh in as well. Do you think it's appropriate or inappropriate for people to mention Kobe's rape case just hours after his death?
I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I'll tell you how I felt.
Yeah.
Like the fire, they hadn't even put out the fire yet, and someone said, "I'm glad Kobe's died. I hope he burns in hell so we can't rape anymore." Good for him. His kid died there with him.
Yeah.
There are other people on that plane that died. His family is gonna see that on social media.
Yeah.
And I don't want to govern anybody's trauma, but I know how sick that made me feel. So it made me question how I react to people's deaths. It made me think back to when George Bush Sr. died, and then what I said, which is my condolences to his family, but he wasn't good for black people. I'm not stressed. It makes me want to consider just having a little bit more empathy, no matter how bad the person may be in my point of view. And then also the thing that ticked me off about it is the reactions. People have just there's some people. There was a reporter who just tweeted out the story saying Kobe was accused of rape with no context. And you're not even telling the whole story because yes, he went through this. He wasn't convicted. He actually apologized. I have it right here. I won't read the whole thing, but I will read the most important part where he says after the case was dropped, he says, "I want to apologize directly to the young woman involved in this incident. I want to apologize to her for my behavior that night and for the consequences she has suffered in the past year. Although this year has been incredibly difficult for me personally, I can only imagine the pain she has to endure, and I want to apologize to her, her parents, and her family members for this." He then said that he in a legal document that he was under no pressure to make this statement. He did it on his own, and it showed that 23 years old he was trying to be better. He died at 41. He couldn't have grown.
No, not only did he grow from that, but afterward we saw a whole new different type of Kobe. At the time of his death, he was a fierce advocate for women's basketball. He was, a proud girl dad. He was, happily investing in women and for in executive positions. So I do think that after this tragedy, I was grateful to see a new and evolved Kobe. However, I wasn't as, you also brought up that the journalist, right?
Yeah.
The fact that a journalist from the Washington Post who was tweeted about this incident, she sent out the article, no context. Yeah. She was suspended from the Washington Post. She has since been brought back onto the team. Yeah. And the Washington Post said that although her tweets were ill-timed, they were not in clear and direct violation of their publication social media policy. Yeah. But I know a lot of us had a lot of thoughts and felt very concerned that, it's one thing for a public citizen to say, he was make accusations that he was a rapist. But it's another thing for a journalist, a trusted member of the media, to put that out in the world as well. Tammy, we haven't heard from you in a while. What are your thoughts on that?
So I just want to say, even though I spent a lot of this segment saying, I didn't really know Kobe like that, and I didn't really feel nothing for his death, and it was just kind of jolting to see the reaction, I'm a human being. Mm-hmm. He was a human being, and he has family, and that was unacceptable. I feel I talk a lot of smack about social media because I really think it kind of pushes people to just blurt out their stream of consciousness with no respect or regard to others. It empowers you to think that your voice is the voice above all. And that journalist, especially knowing her responsibility, knowing her following, was so out of line and so out of pocket, knowingly publishing something that would antagonize an entire community, a family, and so many people. To put that out, as a journalist, you're supposed to do your due diligence, and I do believe that she must know how that case played out. Everyone has the chance to grow. Cancel culture is out of control in that somebody who's lived his life supporting women, uplifting women, supporting his community, to put that out there is just I think personally riding the cancel culture vibe for clicks and reactions, and it's disgusting. Vanessa Bryant, last point, Vanessa Bryant, girl, I am so sorry if you saw that.
White
I am
women
so
feminism.
sorry.
That's what that is.
You know what? And
Well,
Evan, you know,
yeah.
I know you want to chime in here. Is it possible to remember someone's legacy in full totality?
Of course it is. And I think that's the problem. If we thought that that was possible, if we thought that it was completely possible to say, look, this was something that he admitted was a mistake. Look, what Kobe did that is different than a lot of the admissions with that apology that Stanley read, he basically said, hey, I probably didn't have the best understanding of consent when I was 25.
Yeah.
And a lot of men don't do that. Now, it doesn't excuse him. And this is the thing. Again, we can't forget that this is at a backdrop where sexual assault is still denied by so many people.
Yeah.
It's so hard for sexual assault cases to get, for justice to be brought against them. It's so hard for survivors to be believed. There are a lot of cases like this isn't the first time something was re-brought up. It's like,
Yeah.
I was speaking with someone who said she's still upset that Roman Polanski, who is a rapist,
Who's that?
the director of The Pianist, and he raped a young girl and had to
Oh my
flee the
God.
He
country.
bounced, yeah.
He bounced and he got a standing ovation for his Oscar while he was out of the country.
What?
But this happened before the Me Too movement. So,
people are crazy.
but a lot of people stood up. So my point is that a lot of people feel like, especially survivors, that anything that happened before Me Too is like people kind of forgot about it. So I personally don't think this was the right time, but I'm not a survivor of assault
Yeah.
who says, hey, these are my issues. So many people who do this are getting, quote unquote, like it's being swept under the rug.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to happen is the example that you gave of the person who said, like, this person should die, I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
That's not a representative of a lot of people.
Yeah,
There are a
it's
lot
not.
of survivors of any background who are any kind of feminist, white or otherwise, who did not respond like that, who are survivors who just felt how they want to feel, but they were not happy in celebrating his death.
And you should be able to talk about his story and
Yeah.
in the totality and the
Right.
rape case. I think it's fair to bring it up and have a discussion about it. But if you think it's so important to bring it up, then tell the whole story and talk about the change.
Jackie Bradley just chimed in on our Facebook Live. She says people have not mentioned his 17-year-old past since 2003. To bring it up now, and they never spoke of it since then, it's something I do not agree with. So I think people are saying, there's a difference in energy then.
That's not necessarily
That's
true.
that's not true.
They
though.
brought it up when he won his Grammy or his whatever that award was that he won in 2017. They brought it up.
Not just that. This is, again, to understand the notion of sexual assault survivors and triggering. Yes, first of all, it was brought up because during the Me Too movement, some people were like, was this forgotten? Second of all, the fact that his name and his legacy is coming to light again, that is the triggering moment for some people. It's not just about Kobe. It's about all these people who felt like their famous assaulter is now being remembered and my story's not.
But-
It's that.
I
It's
want to
that, yeah.
highlight Jackie's second comment.
Okay, quickly.
Quickly, people have to understand there has to be redemption, especially after he has publicly apologized and sought to understand what he did and never make that mistake again.
Thank you for that. On that note, we do have to wrap up this conversation. But before we go, quickly, Stanley, what lessons from Kobe's life, legacy, controversies, and now death can you apply to your own life?
Never waste a second, never waste a minute. And, it's about the work. Kobe would wake up at 2 a.m. to practice 4 times before 10 o'clock in the morning. And he said he did that because if he worked twice as hard as everybody else, no matter how hard they worked, they would never catch up to him. And I want to make sure I'm applying that same kind of effort and dedication to my craft, whatever it may be, as Kobe. So thank you for that, Kobe.
Tammy, quickly, what lessons can be applied here?
Seeing the reaction to Kobe's death, I just want to say be kind to each other. Understand that we all grow and evolve as people. And in this Black History Month, as we reflect on our heroes and their legacies and our activists and the work that they do, we do not live in a bubble. Not every human being is perfect, but we need to learn to celebrate people when they can own up to their mistakes, rectify it, and continue to do the work for the community.
Last words, Evan, in 10 seconds.
From Kobe, always be hungry. And from the reaction, we need to give people space.
Space to grow. And I'll just end by saying this. I 100% agree. I do not think that we should ignore the allegation and pretend that something shouldn't be spoken about, because that is a pivotal part of his career. And as I said, a lot of people who follow him closely noticed a big change in him. It wasn't always about just winning. He became an advocate, and he became extremely supportive. And if you ask me, that's when his legacy sort of took a very different stance, a very different direction than Michael Jordan, who was seen as untouchable and unrelatable. But Kobe Bryant, to me, showed his humanity.
Yeah.
He showed that not only has he made a huge, disgusting mistake that he apologized for, but he showed growth, and he showed understanding, and he showed empathy. And I think that that's something that we can all take home, in addition to the Mamba mentality that he showed us about living your life to its fullest potential and being obsessed with your dreams until they are actually realized. I think that is something that I will continue to apply to my life, especially in honor of his legacy. On that note, I want to thank everyone who chimed into today's discussion. Thank you for your comments and the viewership on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you to everyone who subscribes and listens to us via podcast. We'll see you again next week.